Welcome to the WoodsTalk podcast. So anyway, welcome to WoodsTalk. First and foremost, you're the first guest of the year. How have you been? Happy New Year. Have you had a good Christmas? All that jazz.
I don't know what to answer first there. I think that the term that everyone has used in the past, since Christmas, is it's been a quiet one. I think
Oh, wow.
everyone's been saying that. I
Quiet.
walk past, me and Diona go out for walks every day, and we walk past a lot of people, and they're meeting each other and talking about Christmas and New Year, and they're all saying, it's been quiet, and sure, it's what you want, it's so. Just like everybody else, we've had a quiet one and
Yeah.
quiet New Year and just quiet past 10 months, really,
Aye,
hasn't it?
man. It's very
Been for
weird.
everybody. I
Because
know, I know.
the thing that annoys me is like every year everybody says their Christmas is quiet. And then this
Yeah,
year it's obviously is applicable. But now, like, because years gone by, people were like, oh, it was very quiet. And I'm like, did your TV break or did you go deaf? What the fuck does quiet mean? Do you know what I mean? When you've been 12 pubs, staff dues, Christmas market, having mimosas at 10 on Sunday morning, but like, oh, it was very quiet. And I'm like, do you not have a
uh,
Bluetooth speaker in your house? Why is it so fucking quiet? Put on the tunes.
that's it. But if people have had quiet Christmases before, this year was fucking white noise, like, wasn't it?
Oh, for sure, man. It's been the weirdest year for everybody. But from our point of
Yeah,
view, given and obviously yourself and Diona, this was a year that just nobody fucking expected at all. From that point of view, as a
I
performer and
know.
someone in the business of show, fucked, fucked.
Yeah, I know, I know. Like we, myself and Diona, we started writing theatre shows at the beginning of last year, and we
Mm,
actually got two commissions in February, one for the Grand Opera House and one for the Waterfront.
awesome, man.
And that was going to be our breakthrough Christmas and getting into the adult panto kind of adult show,
Hmm.
theatre shows. And we had them two scripts fully written, fully passed, fully commissioned, money ready to go, everything, contract signed, and next thing, just everywhere closed and shut down. And you kind of feel like, well, hopefully things will work out this year. But then there's talk of things, there's talk of 2 or 3 years passing and still socially distancing and things not back to full capacity. And who the fuck knows? You just have to just. You just every day, and I think we just try and be happy, and that's it. Just every
Yeah,
day is just how can you make each other happy and ourselves happy, and that's it's the be all and end all, really.
100%, man. What were the plays about? I mean, you were saying it's going to be like an adult panto. That's not a massive thing over here, is it not? Is that why you did it? It's like a gap in the market sort of thing. Excuse the pun, gap. But
Well, the way it worked was we did an adult panto. Me and Diona and Paddy McDonnell and Kieran Bartlett and Chris Patrick Simpson did one about 5 or 6 years ago. Do you remember that, called Carol's Christmas?
aye.
And it was almost like an adult panto. It was like a Christmas show with a kind of a few week kind of theatery panto cliches in it. And then we were approached to do one with GBL Productions about not this Christmas gone, the Christmas before that. And that was me, Diona, and another guy as well, Jared McCabe. And after that, once we got the script for that last Christmas, we started adding our own material to it, and we started writing jokes. They were like, if you can think of anything that you think will fit better or be funny or whatever, then feel free to put it in. So we pretty much rewrote parts of the script just to our own sense of humor. And afterwards, they were like, if you want to write next year's, or if you want to be in the mix to sort of have it optioned, then get us something by February. So they gave us like the title, which was Cinder on Tinder. It was like Cinderella, but she was on Tinder,
Right.
and a bit of a kind of adulty kind of storyline behind it and stuff. So me and Diona sat at home for maybe 6 weeks
Yeah.
and wrote it all up, sent it to them, and they loved it, and they picked ours over the other scripts that were sent in as well, which was great. And then another one was called Home Malone, based on the Malone Road, and it was like an adult Home Alone.
Love it.
And it was like we're so proud of it. The script we thought was we loved it. Like we think it's some of our best work, the two of us together. And it was between that and The Waterfront, which one we were going to act in, because I think the terms were like, you know, that they would both theater shows or theater companies would both want the two of us to be in it for ticket sales and for whatever else for the audience. And so we were kind of wondering like which one we were going to do, and it was edging closer to doing the Home Alone one, and the thought of doing it in the Grand Opera House too would have been lovely. Now it was just in the Baby Grand in the smaller room, because obviously the main panto takes up the entire fucking 8 or 12 week
Yeah,
run. Do
man,
you know what I mean?
it's massive over it.
So yeah, so yeah, we were going to do probably Home Alone this
Mm,
Christmas, only it got cancelled. I keep saying this Christmas, obviously the one just gone there.
yeah. So how dirty can you actually go with it? Like, I mean, you obviously still have to play to a crowd. I mean, would it be advertised as like a not safe for work sort of vibe? Like, I mean, could you go proper dirt with it? Like,
Yeah, you could go proper dirt, because in the last one we did, what was it called? My memory, see, since these lockdowns, my memory has just turned to just watery piss. Like, just I can't fucking hold anything in my head. I have no
yeah,
memory at all. But the one we did last Christmas, there was a part of it where I was like the prince, and I had to do chat lines. So I got to do my own chat up lines to it. So
yeah,
I was just throwing out absolute muck and just pure filth, and the audience were absolutely loving it. So it's deemed as like a panto after dark. Do you know what I mean? And it's not for
yeah,
kids, and it's strictly for adults. And people were coming in and just getting off their bollocks blocked,
yeah,
and you could pretty much just say what you wanted, like, and they were loving it. They were lapping it up, because you know the way in a comedy club, everyone's quite rough. Everyone can be a bit dirty. Everyone's going to tell dick jokes and talk about a time that they shit themselves in mass and stuff. Do you know what I
yeah,
mean? But
yeah,
but when you're doing this to this kind of audience, they're almost unexpected. So every time you swear, it's almost took them by surprise. You
yeah,
know, it's like they're almost like wee grannies and or older parents that are out with their younger son and his girlfriend or things like that. You know, that's the kind of audience, or
yeah.
big groups of girls who are on a work night out. And the audiences were brilliant, and the dirtier you were, the more played into their hands, so they loved it. And you just slagged all different parts of Belfast, and they were fucking so patriotic and cheering and
Yeah.
clapping and stomping. It was brilliant. Like, it's
Um,
definitely something comedians should look at into doing a bit more of theater work
yeah,
and acting more. Do you know what I mean? It's definitely it's great fun. Like, but what about
yeah.
you? How have you been the past 10 months or so? Like, have you been keeping busy? Are you working from home or?
Working from home, yeah, the day job has kept me afloat, thankfully. I did consider
Sure.
after I got married going part time or leaving the day job for stand up, and now I'm
Yeah.
glad that I didn't, because obviously I can't see that being a thing for me for quite some time, to be totally honest. But I'm lucky
Oh,
enough working from home, but at the same time working from home during my first year of marriage. And as they say, the first year of marriage is the hardest. So me and Lisa both working from home, sitting at the kitchen table, like opposite each other, looking at laptops. And it was a struggle now, to be totally honest. Like I don't think she always knew I was a tit, but it was always small doses titness because I was working and then I was going out and doing stand up late at night. But now she's with
yeah,
me 24/7, so she's getting the full brunt of the titness. And now she's just
yeah.
like, I think I have to put a bib on you from now on because I don't know how you fucking get dressed in the morning, sir. I'm concerned, concerned. Yeah.
We're all the same, aren't we?
Oh man, like no one will make you stupider like your wife. You just feel like an absolute idiot. Like I remember our toilet seat broke about 2 weeks into the very first lockdown. And Lisa was like, "Oh, I found one here. Just go down to Poundland or Pound Stretch or whatever the fuck it was." And I was like, "Okay, I'll go get one now." And I was like, "WhatsApp it to me." And she was like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "Just WhatsApp me the link to the toilet seat." And she's like, "It's a toilet seat. What do you need link to? Just go into the shop and buy the." Do you know what I mean? Like you should know which one to
Yeah.
get. You know what I mean? As if I come back with a giant horseshoe, be like, "Is that it there? Is that it?" Fucking ridiculous, man. I have to say. But
I know.
it's been weird, man, and it's very annoying just from a general comedy point of view in that our scene is fucking brilliant, and then suddenly this kicks in and everybody it's kind of been pegged back a bit,
on its
because I
own.
felt like the leap
I
that the
know.
Northern Irish comedy scene has made, and I've said this a million times, but it's as much to do with us doing gigs, doing our own shows, podcasts, live podcasts, whatever, radio, plays, stuff like that. But you have to commend the people that are fucking coming out in droves now, because that was never a thing, certainly when I started. So obviously you've been going longer than me. You were there during the darker days where
Yeah,
if you had 15 people in, you'd be delighted. 15 that didn't have to be told to come down. Do you know what I mean? Like from the other side of the bar going, there's comedy in here if you want to see it. Now people are
yeah,
coming to see you and myself and whoever, like multiple times, man. Like they go see in Lavery's and then Empire, then they'll go to your solo show, even though they're hearing a brunt of the same stuff, and they're just like, we like seeing, because I spoke to people who came to see me like 3 times in the space of a couple of weeks, and I was like, you must be sick hearing about this
yeah,
fucking Jerry Adams cookbook bit and all, and they were just like, we like seeing the development. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
People here are so into it. It's fucking mad. So when this all kicked in, lockdowns, restrictions, tiers, substantial meals if you want to drink, and I've never heard the
Our
word bubble.
numbers.
Yeah, and then bubble. I've never heard the word bubble as much in my fucking life. Like, what bubble are you in? Stick to your bubble. Oh shit.
I know. Every time you're out too, all you hear is shouting up the road, social distancing. You just have
Yeah.
to fucking, you watch where you walk and all. But it's as you say, like I had friends and stuff before obviously all this kicked off, and they would come and watch me do stand up, and you would almost have to twist their arm at the start. They're like, I don't know, it's not for me. And I'm like, well, just go to a night, because everyone that goes has a great time. Just go and see if you like it, and who knows, it might open the door for you, whatever. And you would bring a couple of friends along, especially if you're driving to a gig. They're like, all right, we'll get drunk, and you're our driver for the night.
Mm-hmm.
But you would bring them to a gig, and after they're going home and they're buzzing and they're talking about all the comedians' bits that they've done, and they're like, here, let me know when the next one is. And I'm like, but it's three of the same fellas you've just seen, and they're like, "Aye, but just let me know and we'll come to the next one." And then they go for about 2 or 3 months, just steady following you at gigs, and
Yeah.
they love it. There's almost like a bug about it. But I think with social media too, and with us all having our own wee kind of followers now, you just it's brought things into the millennium. Do you know what I mean? It's
Mm.
really pushed things forward for us, and I think there are so many comedians from this country who are just on the verge of doing big things. And I think when the first person does, it's really going to blow open the doors for so many of us to follow suit. And it's almost like just creating that platform and for people to step up and go, oh, fuck, maybe there is a scene over there. Or,
Yeah.
oh, they do have funny people. Or, oh, we do understand the accent better than we thought.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I
That's what it
agree,
comes
man.
down to.
And when I was setting up to do this with you, I was sort of realizing that it's been such a long time since we properly were able to have a chat. And I was thinking about, like, since we last were properly in the same room for more than 10 minutes at like a gig or here and there, you've had like, what's the word I'm looking for? You've had every experience that you could have had, in terms of, you obviously got serious hits with Rodney, but then via Ireland's Got Talent, you got hits as yourself. So you've had both sides of that. And then obviously you've done solo shows and stuff like that. I mean, you've had a whirlwind couple of years, and that's just comedy speaking. I know very recently yourself and Diona have obviously announced very sort of positive personal news, but which we'll get into later. But what's it like? I mean, you've been on Ireland's Got Talent since we were last speaking, and then Rodney got serious hits, and you know what I mean. You were flat out doing all that. I mean, what was that like for you? Now looking back.
It's quite surreal because I would do things where somebody would say to me, right, I need you to send me a headshot and your CV. And then I'd be like, fuck, right, I have to go on and update my CV here. And I would start looking down through all the things I've done over the past few years. And you almost have to pinch yourself. I forget a lot of things that I've done because my brain's a pile of shite now. And plus, I just feel like I had a period of time where I did so much and I was so active that I had all these boxes ticked and all these kind of goals that I'd achieved, and it's quite surreal. In one hand, you're kind of just going like, well, I'm just going with the flow here. Do you know what I mean? I'm not really aiming for this one thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just putting myself out there and trying to stay busy and trying to work and trying to stay active. And it's just with anything as well, where the more active you are, it's like us doing podcasts. It's like TV shows. It's like anything. The longer it goes on, with longevity comes success and an audience and listenership and everything else. Do you know what I mean? It's just sticking with it, and it's the old cliche where if you don't give up, good things will happen. And it's just, that's what I feel like has almost happened for me time and time again, because I've spent so many times, like so many occasions, I've been like, right, I'm going to give it to the end of this year, and if things don't kick on, I'm just going to walk away, or I'm going to try something else, because I'm not in this for a laugh, per se, which everybody else is. But and I don't mean that as in everybody else in it just to have a laugh. I mean, I'm in this to fucking hit serious numbers and serious figures and serious amounts and all that comes with it. And if I feel like I can't be the best, or if I can't give it my best, then I'm gonna go away and focus all my energy on something else. And that's what I've kind of felt like the past year or two, because I almost lost my way a wee bit about 2 or 3 years ago. And you know yourself, like every time we see each other at gigs, I'm usually asking to be on first so I can get paid at the break and fuck off home. Do you know what I mean? And that's almost like a lifetime of just having small kids, and just didn't want to be away for too long, and almost a wee bit socially awkward and a wee bit of anxiety where I didn't sort of feel comfortable hanging about with people. And growing up, I didn't have many male friends either, so it was always hard for me to kind of interact or mix with fellas. And I almost feel like football was a talking point, which is something that not many comedians are into. I know you tweeted earlier about Spurs. But I think there's only a couple of us that are kind of into stuff like that, so it's harder to talk to people that you don't have much in common with. And I've completely got away with everything you've asked me, but hopefully it all comes full circle soon. But everything that I've achieved, I haven't really set out to achieve those things. I never meant to be on Ireland's Got Talent. I never thought I would win Ireland's Funniest Joke. I didn't think I would get all the views with the Rodney stuff. But again, it was just longevity. Just keep doing it. Just keep doing your thing. And it almost felt like I wouldn't have been able to do the Ireland's Got Talent stuff if I hadn't have done the Rodney stuff, because the way the Rodney character evolved, it almost turned into a bit of like a children's character. And I started doing kids shows and family shows. And that made me write more material for families, which was perfect for Ireland's Got Talent. And going on Ireland's Got Talent, I think as well, was just one of those things where if I'd have just went on and just held a microphone and just told jokes, I wouldn't have got far. I wouldn't have got past the judges. I knew I had to come up with some kind of gimmicky extra thing that got the audience sort of captivated and got everyone to sort of play along with. And there was the idea that I was going to go on as the Rodney character, and then last minute I was like, I want to go on as myself. And I knew that I was going on to face the judges through the videos that I had to send them in advance, and I had to sort of, it's not where you just kind of show up and it's the next person goes on. It's almost like, right, there's 10 of yous on tonight, and this is pretty much a show for this audience. And then what they'll do is they'll run for 4 or 5 nights, and then they'll cut up all the bits of everybody they wanted, but everything's all specially invited. Do you know what I mean? There's nobody just comes off the street and just goes, I'm gonna go on Ireland's Got Talent tonight, and if it's good or shit, it's going to be on TV. There's months of like paperwork and filling out forms and them coming to your house and just sending them videos of your jokes and a whole transcript of what you're going to do and stuff like that. So it was an exciting time. I've no regrets, but I got to the point then after that where I was just like, right, I want to try something else now. I think it was around the Ireland's Got Talent time where I was like, right, I want to knock the Rodney character in the head for a while. I was going to weddings and stuff, and I was dressed like a dickhead, with my trousers pulled up and a shit smelly t-shirt on when everyone was in a tuxedo or in a nice dress and stuff. Do you know what I mean? So I kind of got to the point where it was like, right, time to maybe knock this in the head for a while and try something different. And that's when I kind of went, right, it's time to make a name for myself. A lot of people knew Rodney. A lot of people still to this day shout Rodney to me in the street. But I wanted to be known for more than that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Was it weird doing like Ireland's Got Talent and doing your act on TV, knowing that you had to do the act exactly like you told them beforehand? So you obviously tell them what you're going to do, then you have to do it. It's not like when you show up at pugs and go, I'm going to try these bits, and if you forget them or you don't do them, it's not the end of the world. There's a freedom with stand-up that obviously you have to sort of sacrifice when you're on that show. And obviously the edit and stuff like that, I mean, you've no control over that. I mean, what was that like?
Exactly, because that's when I was going into it, that was my biggest worry, because throughout my entire career, I was like, am I fuck touching Britain's Got Talent, Ireland's Got Talent, any of those? Not touching them, because you're not in control of what goes out. You don't have a say in the matter. You have to kind of, you can't do your raw, unrehearsed act. You have to do this polished kind of act that is suitable specifically for this audience. But I think because I had the experience to deal with it, I think 4 or 5 years before that I wouldn't have been able to do it. But because I had the experience and I'd done a bit of TV and stuff in the past, that I was a lot more prepared for it, so it made it easier.
Yeah.
But it basically just came down to, like, I would watch Britain's Got Talent, not so much anymore, obviously, but years ago I would have watched it when it was at its peak, and I would watch it with my kids, and in the back of my head, it was always me asking the question, I wonder how you would do if you were on that. And I'm sure everyone's asked it at some point, do you know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
everyone sort of thinks it in their head. And it just got the better of me that one year. And it was the start of Ireland's Got Talent. And I followed Jason Byrne, and he tweeted one day that he was going to be the judge and that submissions had opened. And it was almost like a calling. I felt it was almost like, right, here's your chance. You want to transition from the Rodney character. You want people to know Sean Haggerty, not just Rodney.
Yeah.
And you're in a good position here to sort of do something fun and different. And now's your chance to see if you would get 4 X's or 4 yeses or 2 of each or whatever it may be. And it's kind of time to sort of answer that question for myself.
Yeah.
And I knew as well, with Ireland's Got Talent, I knew it could open doors in the South, which it obviously did. But I knew as well that if it didn't go as well as I'd hoped, I could come back up here and nobody would have really seen it, because we don't really get RTE up here unless we have like Sky, or
that's true.
you have a dodgy aerial hanging out the back of your bedroom. But
yeah, unless you
so
get a
that's what it
box
was.
chipped, you know what I mean? They'll chip
Yeah.
box. I miss that, man. I miss
Batteries.
buys that would chip. They would chip anything, even if, I suppose these days you can get your fucking Echo Dot chipped or your Samsung Bluetooth kettle chipped and everything. Like, because I used to love there would just be a guy that chipped everything. Doesn't matter what it was. PlayStation 1
all the time.
chipped, and he needed to take it away for 10 days, bit of cash in hand, and it just came back with like this fucking Arabic lamp attached to it. And you're like, as long as that's attached, you'll be grand, and you can watch Al Jazeera and dumb as shit. I miss that one.
I used to have a BT Cellnet. Do you remember those?
I do, yeah. Oh.
And every time you turned it off and on again, your credit went up to like £3.67. So, like, really fucking specific. The guy BT Cellnet, and for some reason he found out this chip. And as you say, you leave the phone up to him for like 4 months, and then you get it back. And every time you make a call, it's like you just run out of credit, and then you turn your phone on and off and on again. But it got to the point where me and like my mate or something, it was like nobody really had mobile phones back then. Joe, maybe the first year or two that they were coming out, and they were big bricks. So we would just make up house phone numbers. We would just ring fucking 0762 318 214, and you would just press it, and then you would just tell them that your dog's missing in the field behind their house, so if they could have a look out their back windows, and you would just put it up,
I love that.
just because you had £3.67 in your on your phone. Do you know what I mean? So it was great times, like, really was. I remember VHSs too. You used to get them out of the video library and copy them, and it's great times, like. But now just everything's, you stream everything now, don't you?
Oh, for sure. Like, physical media is done now, because I miss it. Like, there's two things I want to bring up. I remember having like a tape player, and you would like try and tape the charts on a Sunday, and you'd have to like do it at the right time and let go record, like stop recording at the end of the song and stuff. But I remember I had the Nokia something. It was like blue and orange, and my cousin was like, I can set you up with free messages, because do you remember you used to have to top up? Do you remember that? Yeah. Top ups? I didn't even realize it was still a thing. So she was like, I can set you up, free messages. Text was still like a fucking new enough thing, man. And you were obsessed with texting. She set it up for me, but what she didn't realize was every time I text someone, it went to them 100 times. So as soon as she set it up, I fucking like text everybody, just go and what you at, you know, the stuff you did back then. What you at? Did you see Digimon last night or some shit? But it would send 100 times to each person. They were like, yeah, stop fucking messaging me, you root.
Unbelievable. I remember one time I did, I was in 5th year in school, and I did work experience at the Lyric Theatre in Belfast. and it was this big production, and for some reason I was just like passing someone their costume at the side of the stage or whatever it was, and I was spending the whole week down there. And because I was like the son who was all grown up and he was doing big things in the big smoke, not many people from Lurgan get the opportunity to go to Belfast, so you look after yourself out there, do you know what I mean? The whole pep talk before I'd get on the train, and
Getting injections and all. A visa.
It was, man, Dad knew where I was at all times. But I remember I was just about to get on the train the first day, and my dad was all, here, take my mobile phone, because this was when phones were just coming out, and we had one for emergency purposes only. And my dad gave me his phone, and I brought it down. It was like Orange. Do you remember the Orange network?
Mm-hmm.
This big brick of a phone. And one of the fellas I'd been talking to that day, he was like, oh, if you want a job here in the future, give me a shout and stuff, get your phone out and take my number. So I got the phone out, and the phone was turned off, and I turned it on, and the first thing that came up was, love you, sweetheart. It was like a message my dad wrote from my mum. And I got fucking slagged to death the entire week. Everyone was all, right, see, sweetheart, love you, see you tomorrow. It's like, these bastards. It was just brutal. But technology's on its whole now, isn't it? Just,
oh man, I remember like when it was fun. Do you know what I mean? Like these days, you're on your phone, you just end up annoyed. Like, do you remember when texting was a thing? You could text a landline. Do you remember that? If you text a landline in your house, or just any brand, it would be like and it'd be like the O2, your balance is low woman, that bird who must be flat out. So you could just be like, suck my dick or something like that there, and just text it like, hey, motherfucker. Come out, you black and tans. It's the best shit, man.
I remember when there was a payphone put up one time at a Great Victoria Street station, but it had like where you could send text messages from it. So when it had like a big keypad on the front of it. So I used to put like 10p in to send a message. And the first time I did it, when I had like ran out of credit on my phone, I was trying to text to get a lift from the train. And I went to put in my phone number, and it said, enter the phone number that this message is from. And then I was like, holy fuck, this is amazing. You can actually send messages from other people, pretending that you're them. So I was getting pound coins changed into 10p's and just having a field day, popping them in and typing out messages from people. That was great.
Oh,
those were the days. Why?
Do you remember borrow a quid? Do you remember you could do that? I don't know if it was strictly O2. You could borrow a quid online, and then when you topped up, it took it off you.
It came off. Unbelievable. I remember my dad as well.
Yeah.
The first house we lived in, my dad used to slam our back door, and the electricity would reset itself on the electric board on the meter. So we would get it would go back to zero or whatever. So every time, like every couple of weeks, it would go up to like sort of 5 or 6 quid or something. My dad just goes down, slams the back door back to zero, and don't have to pay a penny. The guy was coming around to read the meter every 6 months, and he was like, what's going on here? My dad's like, we just light candles at night and talk around the fire. Do you miss those days, do you?
Oh fuck, man, I miss all those, just that time of learning about like being part of when technology started to get good. And obviously my favorite thing ever, this was like in the teething stage, was, do you remember infrared, which is the best thing of all time? Infrared. And if you wanted to send a song or a ringtone to your friend, you had to hold your phones together for the entirety of the transfer. And I remember like these two girls in my school were like called up to the principal, because this was like old school Strabane, and they were just like, if you two girls were in a relationship, you would sort of, need to be very careful. This was old school Strabane, where like homophobia, it's still a thing, but who gives a shit? But basically it turned out they were both in Spanish class, and they were sending each other a track, but they had their hands like on the table beside each other, so the teacher thought that they were flicking each other's beans or something like that there. Just
right.
Set it all for the purpose of sending Baha Men Who Let the Dogs Out polyphonic ringtone or something.
Fucking hell. Polyphonic ringtones were the best too. I remember there was a website early on, and you could create your own. And I was going into school and intentionally like putting my phone in my pocket and ringing myself during picking the ringtone. And then people were all, what song's that? I've never heard that in the charts. And I'm like, just made that last night on some websites, no big deal. Do you know what I mean? Cost me 14 quid. Still the same guy. Don't treat me any differently, lads. Just great times, man. Just simple.
I did something similar where I bought the ringtone from Power Rangers, like the be communicator, the din 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 din, and I
Yeah.
wanted to act the big man, so I put my phone on loud, and then you used to be able to text the word balance to 50202, and then 02 would text you back with your balance. So I would do that quickly and then
Yeah.
put the phone away and walk away from it, and then I'd be like din 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 din, and I walk over, got a text here, like don't matter, you know what I mean? It's one of the bitches, you know what I mean?
Brilliant.
Miss it, man.
Brilliant.
Very much miss all that shit. Tapes. Do you know what I mean? Taping things. And my dad used to like write on the back of an envelope what was on each tape. He had like all the tapes labeled. So this would be like no fucking heartbeat. What do
Brilliant.
they call it? Ultimate Force that Ross Kemp was in. Do you remember that? Shit, like the
And you used to
Robson
get,
and Jerome and
yeah, with every tape, you used to get like a packet of stickers, so you
oh
could peel off like each individual letter and sort of stick it on. Joe, it was like Coronation Street and stuff like that.
yeah.
I remember those days. And with VHSs too, there was like a wee square on it that you could pull it off, and that meant the tape recorded twice as slow, so you got twice as much out of it. So if you
That's
got a
right.
3-hour VHS, it recorded for 6 hours.
Yeah,
You
that's
just
right.
fucking
Oh.
living the dream. I think my dad has the whole Italian 90 on VHS.
I think my dad's still the same. Like we've put him on streaming now, but I think he misses. He doesn't feel as productive when he's just streaming something because it's just there. I think like because there was times where he had a bit of conflict where he only had like 6 tapes, and he was like, if I want to tape this episode of Bad Girls, I need to scrap something on a tape, or I need to tape over something, and he'd be sitting there going, can I tape over? You know what I mean? This fucking episode of Big Break, or I'm just thinking of all the old school shit.
Big break.
Well,
Snooker and you tonight.
fuck.
Living the dream. But just see kids nowadays as well. Like there's a lady lives right in the street from us. We were out for a walk earlier, and we met her out. Like we just walked past as she was walking, and we were talking about the kids and stuff, and how in the media it seems as if like kids are having such a bad time, and they don't understand lockdown, and they can't see their friends and all. My kids are fucking loving it. All my kids like have mates in England and America and all from their gaming, and they're just on playing with them all day, and they're living the dream. And you're saying to them, he's looking forward to getting back to school, lad, seeing your mates, and they're all, no way, fuck that, sitting in gaming 24/7, just loving life.
Yeah. Fuck.
Just I don't know, but just I feel like we had it so much simpler when we were kids, and it was so much better. I feel like
Yeah.
kids now are just, they're growing up too quickly. Just
Yeah.
things are too easy for them, and I don't know if they're going to be shocked when they're older, or if they're going to be fine. That's one of my main worries with my lads. Like, it's just that you're setting them up right for later in life, and it's hard to look at the future. Do you know what I mean? Wondering what they're going to be getting up to, and
Yeah. It's
how it's going to be
weird.
for them.
It's weird. Like my
Yeah.
younger sister has a 3-year-old, and he's got an iPad, and he can work it. It's not as if like Hannah puts something on and he just sits and watches it. He's killing
Yeah.
apps. He's booking flights to wherever the fuck. No, it's madness. And I think like it's very scary now, because not that I'm slagging, but I always find like when we were growing up, that sort of era, anybody who was flat out playing games, when you didn't have internet and stuff, but you were in all times playing PlayStation, Xbox, fucking Dreamcast, Game Boy and all, they turned out extremely rare when they hit their teenage years. They had no real, they couldn't chat to anybody, because even like, remember like on a warm day, the worst thing you could do to your parents was stay in. Because they're like, we don't
Yeah.
get this fucking sun off, and you're sitting there playing fucking Spyro the Dragon, you wee rit, and get out to fucking play Kirby or whatever. So the fact now that like we
Yeah.
wouldn't have coped with a lockdown when we were growing up, definitely not, because what else would you have done? Do you know what I mean? Watch 15-1 with your granddad and
Brutal. I don't know. I used to play out day and night, and I used to slag my brothers all the time because they were in the movies and playing games and stuff. But saying that, I would play football all day, and then I would come into the house and I'd watch like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air followed by Heartbreak High, and I'd just be living the dream. And I remember in the summer, like my mom and dad used to boot me out of the house. They were like, it's boiling out there, you get out and you enjoy it, because we don't know how long it's gonna last. And I'd be like, I just want to go back in and watch fucking Fresh Prince slagging off
yeah,
Charlton.
yeah. Heartbreak High, Jesus Christ. I think in Ballymena it's just called Heartbreak, I think, but that's a fucking niche reference, man. Fuck me.
Yeah. it came on Netflix recently, and
Did it?
I stuck half an episode on a few weeks ago, and I was like, it's not really how I remember it. Do you know what I mean? It's all very kind of neighboursy, just not as fun.
Yeah.
It was alright growing up. Do you know what I mean? Where you used to watch it, and then you'd go into the next school the next day, and you'd be like, "Hey, I want my school to be like this," and it was just
Yeah.
wee wankers just walking down the corridor
Yeah.
late for class.
I remember, I'm trying to think of stuff I used to watch. I remember when I was very young, was it called Funhouse? I used to watch that. And the blonde twins as like the co-hosts, and
Right? Yeah, yeah.
Woodsy's first erection, tell you that. And then I remember when I was older, this is so sad, Thursday night, Fort Boyard. Do you remember that? Fort
Yeah,
Boyard.
Channel 5.
Yeah, your man from EastEnders, for some reason, and Melinda Messenger, who's basically tits with feet, and then it would be Charmed, and then Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and an Angel. Do you know what I mean?
That's right.
That was good times. My mom would get me a pack of bourbon creams, and I would just watch away.
They weren't my cup of tea. Those
Were they not? No.
the vampire ones. No, I was never into those. Like, but
Yeah.
I was more like a Saved by the Bell, California Dreams,
Yeah.
Hang Time. I was into all that shit. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just the kind of early teens, just wishing that your life was like that, when really you were just in a council estate in Lurgan, just staring at CIRA on the wall. Do you know what I mean?
And while your dad's slamming doors in the background. I tell you what, though, there's an element of the fact that when we were that age, you just had to watch what was on, because you only had 6 channels, and even Sky back then wasn't what it is now. But these days, because of streaming, you end up just kind of spending 4 hours deciding what you're going to watch, and then you watch 20 minutes of it and you're back on your phone, and then you go to your bed. Do you know what I mean?
I know that people, there are no patience anymore. No one has patience. That's it. It's just everything is so instant now, and so sudden and so quick, and it's like the era of TikTok as well. My kids are on TikTok, and they are just like every couple of seconds just swiping and swiping and swiping, and they would sit there all day in their own shit if you let them, and I have to like take their phones away and hide them and stuff, and get them to play out and have fun and go for walks and do all this. Like everything is just hand and foot. Everything's available to you 24/7. There's if you want to watch a film, you could find it online within about 30 seconds. Do you know what I mean? Which makes it harder to please people. Do you know what I mean?
100%.
Once we progress a wee bit or evolve a wee bit more, everyone's going to be so miserable.
Oh, for sure, man. Because you have to wonder with the whole tech thing, how fast is it going to get much faster? Because you look at the people that buy a new iPhone when there's a new iPhone released, because they're going, well, this one's quicker, and you're like, the one you have is still pretty fucking swift. Like it's a difference of like 5 seconds to open an app on the new iPhone compared to the one you have, and you're like, how quick does it need to be? How realistic does this film need to look? You know, the way you've got like Blu-ray and now it's 4K, and it'll probably jump up, in HD and all this stuff, and 1080p, and you're like, where does it really fucking end? We're like, does it really need to look more realistic when you're watching an episode of the fucking Bill in 4K? I'm like, does this really add to the experience?
Brad Pitt is literally going to have to walk into your house and just fucking annihilate your granny in front of you for you to go, yep, thank you, I'm satisfied now. But I remember I watched the Joe Rogan podcast a few years ago, and your fella Dan Bilzerian was on, and he fucking really opened my eyes, because he was on saying, I stay in the best hotels around the world. I have chefs, like 5-star Michelin rated chefs, that live in my house and cook for me all my meals. I have personal trainers. I have 10 women sitting on a couch over there, all waiting to book me. I have endless amounts of money. I have motorbikes, I have speedboats, I have everything that he needs. He says, but everyone thinks that leads to happiness. But it's so hard for me to be happy, because I have the best of everything. So how do you top that? Do you know what I mean? It's like when you think back to when you were a kid and Christmas came up, and I'm sure are you from like a working class family? Do you know, you probably didn't have much money growing up, but like most people. Do you know what I mean?
Working's a stretch, but
just class people.
Yeah.
But
they worked on paper, but they didn't.
Yeah. but what you got for Christmas was amazing, because you didn't get much through the year. Do you know what I mean? Nowadays you're getting kids and they're getting picked up by their dad on a Saturday afternoon and they're being taken to fucking Funky Monkeys, and then they're taken for a McDonald's, and then they're being bought candy floss and they're brought home to watch fucking Disney Plus all night on their iPad. And do you know what I mean? It's like all the kids now are just getting handed all the shit that we had to either work for or that we just never had.
Yeah.
But I feel like looking back on childhoods, when kids are older, if we all look back, we would probably have fonder memories than our kids.
Yeah, I would agree. 100%.
Because we were easily pleased.
100%. I mean, I remember like once a month we would get a chippy, like a last Friday of the month sort of we would get a chippy in, and you were buzzing. No, there was nothing wrong with the dinners I ever got, all lovely. But there was something about, and then the first time I ever had a Chinese, it fucking blew my mind. I was like, this is the best shit I've ever tasted. But again, because you didn't get it all the time, whereas now, Deliveroo, Just Eat, you don't need to speak to anybody. You can leave a note, go and leave at door, and you can tip online. There's no, if you tip them enough money, they could put a fucking pizza through the letterbox. If you put it through, give them like a tenner tip and be like, just fire that straight into the letterbox along with the wings and the chocolate orange cookies. You wouldn't ever have to speak to anybody. It's fucking, it's good in a certain respect, but I'm kind of glad that people like us kind of had a bit of time pre-internet. So now the internet's a thing. We kind of don't get bogged down by it, appreciate it for what it is. But if you grow up, like when you grow up and the internet's a big thing and you don't know any different, that's the danger. You know what I mean? Everything's so convenient. And as you say, people get irritable and angry because there's a 5-minute delay on, your food coming or an app being downloaded, or it's fucking very unusual, man. Very unusual.
And I don't know, I think like there's so much now as well that your eyes have been open to. Whereas when we were growing up, you played out night and day. You played out until fucking 9 o'clock at night until it was ready for you to go to bed. There were no pedos and all back then. Do you know what I mean?
There definitely wasn't.
There was nothing. There was nothing. Although it was just your Uncle Jerry.
Yeah, we just
your Uncle Jerry after 2 pints. That's it.
We didn't look hard enough. That was our issue. Too busy playing fucking Tigers on. I don't know.
Yeah. But that's it. It's sad to think of what the future could be. I fully think that we peaked in the 90s and now we're just on our way down just until a meteor hits and then we start all over again and there's fucking, I don't know, 4-armed dogs that are just ruling the earth in 1,000 years. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just been misused. I feel there is a load of benefits to everything, even social media. But then when you read an article about, say, a football player who's had to delete his account or disable comments because of like racial abuse, because he or she didn't missed a sitter or missed a penalty or didn't, like Stephen Bergwijn, who plays for Spurs, got a bit of jip for not scoring a goal against, was it Liverpool or something? I don't know, but had to like disable his comments and stuff on his Insta, and you're like, fucking hell. Do you know what I mean?
I know, but that's, what do you put that down to? Do you know what I mean? It's ill reared. It's people who, it's like me and Diona talk as well. It's like we're in WhatsApp groups where people just forward funny shit all day to the point where you're driven insane, especially as us as comedians and content creators.
Yeah.
Everything that's been forwarded to you, the person who created it, their name's been cropped out. Do you know what I mean? It's just a screen grab, they fucking cut the person's name out, and then next thing it's all around the world on WhatsApp. And you're like, this is horrible. Do all us people who are fighting to earn a living and fighting to be creative and be original and come up with original content. And dickheads are just going screen grab, send that on, and then everyone's like, Marty, you're a funny bastard. Where do you get all these? And you're like, I know. That's just me, lads. Legend. Do you know what I mean? You're like, fucking fella hasn't got a GCSE to his name. He's just screen grabbing and cutting the person's name out and sending it on.
Yeah. How do you feel in terms of obviously this lockdown and even like the last couple of years of your sort of career? How has it been affected by the fact that your wife is in the same industry? Is it you'd assume it's brilliant, but maybe there could be downsides because obviously you're both heavily involved in respective aspects of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I feel like she started doing stand-up about 1.5 years ago, maybe 2 years.
Yeah.
And I feel like she is already at where I was even a couple of years ago, if even, maybe even closer.
Right.
And she's fucking brilliant. She's so funny. I think her material's brilliant. She's a brilliant writer. She's got so much experience. And it would be easy to just go, that's not fair. You don't you do that anymore. That's wise up. You can't be as funny as me or funnier than me. But it's the world we live in. I know that there are comedians who come along and they wipe the floor with all of us in a year or two. Do you know what I mean? Look at Paddy Raff,
Yeah.
who's fucking destroying, like, do you know what I mean? And people would be on his back and saying he doesn't deserve that. But anybody deserves anything. There are no rules. You
True.
go out and you do what you can do and you take what you can get. And some people it's going to take 50 years. Some people it's going to take 100 years and they'll still not get where they want to be. Some people it'll take 2 weeks. It's the path that you go down and that's
Yeah.
it. But I feel like with the experience and stuff that I have, I'm almost glad I get into it at the time I did. Do you know what I mean? I got into it along the same time as Mickey Bartlett and Shane Todd and all those lads, and I kind of feel like we climbed the ranks together, and we have fond memories of all the experiences that we've shared together. But I almost feel like comedians that come up now, the likes of Diona and other people, just won't have the experience that we all have in terms of dealing with shit crowds, in terms of dealing with gigs before social media, where the lighting wasn't amazing, the sound wasn't amazing. I feel like everything now is set up to be Instagram ready. Everything's set up to be, look at the comedy night that I've put on, the stage is set, the candles are lit around the tables.
Yeah.
Whereas when you'd be lucky to be handed a mic when we first started. Do you know what I mean? You just had to scream over a loud bar, and you had to beg people to come in from the bar next door, who fucking old men who were watching horse racing. You had to beg them to come in and listen to your jokes. Do you know what I mean? So
for sure, man. Like, I think one of my early gigs was with you in the courthouse. Remember you booked the courthouse? Was that what it's called in Lurgan? And that was an example of that, where like I did it twice, and I think the second time I did it, we had Pat McDonald from Father Ted. You had him down, and it was rammed, and nobody listened to him. You know what I mean? It's like there was lots of gigs like that where, particularly when you were maybe, as you said, hardened you in the way that you just kind of got destroyed the first couple of years, and you didn't know what you were doing. It takes a few years in stand up to decide how the fuck you're going to do things in terms of your presentation. And I know that, like, more so like yourself and Mickey, I know that there was a couple of years where you always concentrated as well on what you wore on stage. You know what I mean? And not a lot of people did that. Even now, not a lot of people go, because I know like Mickey always had like a waistcoat, and then there was,
that's right. Yeah.
like, did you have like braces, shirt and stuff like that? I mean, you had so when you're thinking about all that, it's hard to, have fun with stand up because you're doing all these mad like rooms who don't appreciate anything you're doing. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's why I feel like I have so many strings to my bow now. Do you know what I mean? I feel like because I've had to go down all these different kind of alleyways and try and figure a lot of stuff out, and I almost wouldn't trade that. But I almost feel like, is there going to come a time where the newer comedians that have come through are going to be in at the deep end, and it's going to be so fucking hard because they don't have the experience to deal with when things go wrong, or which probably doesn't even happen nowadays because everyone has their own following.
Yeah.
So people are there to see you regardless. Do you know what I mean? And as long as you don't balls it up, you're going to have a great gig. You're going to get people taking selfies with you after.
Yeah.
So it's I don't know. There's a lot of different ways of looking at it, but in terms of me and Diona, I just think the world is her oyster. I feel like she has all the attributes to wipe the floor with everything that she does. She's just got the work ethic, she's got the determination, she's got the looks, she's got the talent, she's got the experience behind her from everything that she's written in the past, from all her performing on stage, from acting and stuff. And when you look at a lot of the other sort of female comedians that have come through the ranks, the likes of Aisling B and Roisin Connolly and people like that, they almost come through with stand-up, and then it leads to a lot of television work. Whereas I've been saying to Diona for years, I'm like, you crave all these big TV shows and movies and things like that, but with her doing stand-up, I feel like could give her the platform or get her the followers, where then she is chosen or is selected to go and do these bigger jobs. And I
Yeah.
think that's where her path might end up, where she does stand up and it'll get her to a certain level, and
Yeah.
then she'll just fucking explode doing other things. But yeah, I think we bounce off each other pretty well. We don't write together in terms of stand up. We write together in terms of like theater shows and things like that, where I
Yeah.
think we work really well.
Yeah.
But I really think the world's her oyster. I think she has everything to succeed, and I'm nothing but delighted for her. Do you know what I mean? I think,
Yeah.
we're even though we're individuals, we're still a married couple, we're still a family. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that anything success that comes into the family is, we spread it amongst us, and we have good times with it. So we're
Yeah.
fucking, I'm buzzing for her, like, really
Yeah.
am.
Well, I have to say, without sounding too like fucking cliched or like brown nose or anything, but you're extremely lucky to have that attitude that you've just been talking about, and that you're just concentrating kind of on obviously yourself, but obviously your family vibe and stuff. And I think, as you say, there's a lot of people that might slag certain acts for quick trajectories and stuff like that there. And I think, there's always, again, cliche as fuck, but this whole grass is always greener
Mm-hmm.
theory that they're just going, well, sure, that must be fucking great and all. But again, you don't know behind closed doors, because people only see the personality. They don't realize that behind closed doors, things aren't always rosy when you're doing stand up or trying to break into TV, radio. And then sometimes when you do get these things, they don't go to plan. I mean, like, even on a personal level for yourself and Diona, you haven't had, obviously, you've got good news from it now, but you've had a struggle in a certain respect until recently enough. Do you know what I mean? Which,
Yeah,
if you don't want to
yeah.
talk about it, that's fine. But because obviously,
Fuck man, I'd
yeah,
talk about anything. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So we started doing. I'll take you right back to the very start. So
yes,
obviously, I have three boys. And when I met Diona, before then, I was like, I'm done. I've got my children. Life's good. Eventually, I'll get my life back, and I can pick up where I left off at 40 or whatever, and my kids will all be grown up, and away I'll go. And um, I got the snip and stuff as well, and which I showed Mickey and Aaron Butler and all the scar. We we actually got a vasectomy, and we had a gig that night for Find Me the Funny, a TV show that we were doing
yeah.
back in, was it like the late 2000s? Was it around 2008, 2009 or something?
Before
And
before I started anime, and that was 2010. I started or something like that. So it was well before that, I believe.
right, yeah, it probably was then, yeah. And I remember I got the vasectomy that afternoon. I had a gig that night, and when I got to the gig, I obviously told them all what was happening. And as soon as I got there, they were all, get your balls out, show us your balls. So I showed them the scar and stuff, and went on from there. And then once I met Diona, I was like, everything changed. I was like, fucking, why would I not want to be the father to your children? I would love nothing more. And we had a bit of a battle there for a few years. Just, I had to wait on the NHS to get a vasectomy reversal. Eventually got the vasectomy reversal and got the results back to say that it didn't work, that too much time had passed, so it was just not going to work. So what we had to do then was go down the IVF route. And because I had already had children, it meant that we weren't allowed a free go on the NHS, which was bananas because Diona didn't have any children. So rather than kind of contest that and fight it, we just explored other options. And our best option financially was to go to the Czech Republic. So we went to the Czech Republic the summer before last, and we both got operations, and it was real tough because we had to have a talk of what if I had my operation and there was no sperm. Do you know what I mean? What would we do then? Because Diona is destined to be a mother. Do you know what I mean? What were we going to do? Were we going to, like, she wanted to birth her own children, so we were going to have to maybe go down the route of having to look at sperm donors and things like that, or pick a good looking mate who can have a rattle ladder. And thankfully
Yeah,
thankfully it didn't get that far. And they told us when we were over in the Czech Republic, they did like an operation on the both of us to retrieve her eggs and my sperm, and they were like, yeah, there's fucking, they're partying away down there, don't you worry. Just
yeah,
because the lights are off doesn't mean they're not cranking open the Heineken. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah,
uh So that worked out perfectly then. So they got whatever they needed from me, got whatever they needed from her. What they do is then you go away for a couple of days and they incubate they put all of them together, and they incubate the what are they called? Whatever when you put the sperm and the egg together, whatever they're called, they incubate each one individually, and you have to wait maybe
Poacher?
what is it?
A
A
poacher?
poacher? No, that's Michael Owen.
Rude Van Nistelrooy.
Yeah. What's it called? It's I'll kick myself because I know what the word is, but I just can't think of it. But so then we went away and we had to stay in this fucking hotel in Czech Republic, and for 5 or 6 days it was like, what if there are no embryos? That's what they're called, embryos.
Yeah.
So we were like, because they're all kind of graded, we were like, what's going to happen here if there are no embryos, if none of them stick, like if they latch on to each other and start sort of forming. So then we had to wait a couple of days, went to the doctor again, and the doctor says you have 18 embryos that are amazing, that are ready to be children, whenever you put them in or whatever you want to do with them. So we were like, right, well, one goes in obviously, and we'll get rid of 7, which is horrible because there's so many people who do these and they don't get any embryos between the couple,
Yeah.
or a woman and a sperm donor or whatever it may be. So it was a really, really horrible decision and a brutal decision to make, but it was one that we had to make, where we didn't want our DNA children running about on the other side of the world, not knowing who
Yeah.
we are. You want to birth them yourself, you want to be in their lives, such and such, whatever. So we got rid of 7 of them. We had 10 frozen then, and we got back. The owner had OHSS, which is like a swelling of the ovaries. So she was in agony the whole time we were over there for days. We were over there for like 10 or 11 days. So they put in the first embryo. We went home, waited like a week, took a pregnancy test, and it was negative. And we were absolutely devastated, but at least we knew that we had another 9 options. Do you know what I mean? Another 9 children just waiting over there.
Yeah.
So then lockdown hit, fucking nightmare. The way we had planned it is, sorry if this is going on too long, just tell me to stop.
No, all good.
So the way it worked was, we started the new year and we were like, right, well, I have this job, you have that job, I have this job, you have this job. You were filming, things were happening for a couple of months. We're going to have to wait till at least November. And even then, when we go back over in November and the embryo goes in, hopefully you aren't sick if you end up pregnant, and we have to do all our Christmas shows, which were coming up last Christmas. So to cut a long story short, lockdown hit, and we were just going for walks every day, homeschooling and stuff. And we were like, imagine we'd have had our wee baby now. We cancelled all this work when we could have been sitting having a wee baby, or doing being pregnant or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So we were like, right, you know what? As soon as this lockdown eases, it's our main priority to keep our family going, extend, give the owner a first child.
Mm-hmm.
Let's 100% go back over as soon as lockdown eases. So lockdown eased, I think it was like June or July. And as soon as flights were put back on, we took every precaution, isolated, did whatever we had to do. Went straight over to Czech Republic, got the embryo put in, came home, and you're supposed to wait like 2 weeks, because once the embryos are all incubated, then they're like, in age wise, they're like 3 weeks or 2 weeks, 5 days, instead of just the sperm going in and that's the day of fertility. When the day it
Right.
goes in, it's like near 3 weeks old. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we got home, and you're supposed to wait 2 weeks then for either your period to come, or you miss your period, and then you take your test. And we came back and it was like 2 days, and we were like, fuck, let's just take a test. And we took a test, and there was like the faintest line to say that Diona was pregnant. So we just went to the shop and bought about 150 of them. And I was just filling Diona with water, and it was just like pissing another one, pissing another one. And this went on for about 3 weeks. And then we just have like loads and loads. Like, we have a basket full of pregnancy tests just upstairs, and we found out we were pregnant then. We were just absolutely fucking delighted. But it's only when you do that that it opens your eyes to other couples and other people who either are afraid to talk about it, or are going through it and are embarrassed or ashamed of what they're doing. And that's when we did our interviews and stuff then, just when Diona was 20 weeks, I think it was, and we got a good scan, and we found out we were having a girl. And we just got to the point where it was like, do you know what? Diona did IVF material on stage. I filmed a few bits of us going over doing IVF. I was like, I'm going to mash this all together into like a wee movie trailer kind of thing.
Yeah.
And if you're happy enough, I'm going to put it on social media, because we weren't going to put anything on social media. And then we put on social media, and it went down really well. And we had loads of lovely comments and loads of people messaging us, DMing and stuff, and just saying, how much it's helped them, and how much it's like they can't talk about it, and people are actually going through it right now, and they're afraid to tell anyone in their family. And it's devastating. It's only when you actually go through it yourself that it opens your eyes to what's actually out there and what people are actually going through, and how devastating it can be for some people who just never get to experience what we're currently going through. So every day we feel like we're so fucking blessed, like, really.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It's amazing, man. Congrats again. Like, I remember seeing the announcement, you put up the sort of wee sort of video and stuff like that there, and obviously you'd obviously had your privacy pre that, so obviously I had no idea that all this was going on for you. But worked out great. Congrats, man. Like, you must be still buzzing. You must be.
Yeah, absolutely. Cannot wait. We're 30 weeks actually today, so we're in the third trimester.
Yeah.
So it's the home straight now. We have about 8 to 10 weeks left, and the owner's got a lovely bump on her, and we're buzzing. Like, we're practicing hypnobirthing at the minute, so I'm reading a hypnobirthing book, which is something I never thought I would do.
Yeah. What's that, Darren Brown or
So
something, is it?
pretty much
Is it?
Darren Brown. Yeah, no, not Darren Brown, but it's
David Blaine.
yeah, it's training your brain and your mind into having like a happy birth and everything going well, and it's like positivity and stuff, but it's a bit more spiritual in a way where, like, if you're going into the delivery suite, the midwife can't say to you, "Are you in pain? Are you sore? Tell me where you're sore. Are you hurting?" It's like they're all like trigger words that make you feel worse. Whereas
Right.
if you're sitting in a room and somebody says to you, "Are you sore?" Instantly you go, "Fuck, where am I sore?" And then you go, "My ankle's a wee bit sore." Whereas if you say, "Are you comfortable?" then people go, "Oh," the people relax instantly a wee bit more. It's kind of like psychological, but it's
Yeah.
training your brain and focusing on your breathing and just everything being happy and positive and
Yeah.
things like that there. So Fiona's up at the minute having a bath, and she's concentrating, and like it's almost like a meditation, but without sounding too dicky, because I hate all that spiritual holistic kind of stuff. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? But it's something that we think's really going to help. Like, so I'm trying to learn all the lingo and
Yeah.
download the old pan pipes and stuff for in
Yeah.
there, and
Yeah.
have
I
her
agree.
favorite Yankee candle and stuff.
I agree with what you're saying there. All that meditation, and is there what is transcendental meditation stuff, and you're out there. It's relaxing. That's all it is. It's just
Yeah. But you know
relaxing,
what too?
and that's
Yeah, I remember. See, like it must have been about 3 years ago. I felt like I was at the best. How would I put this? Like, I feel like I was the most confident I've ever been in my stand-up career about 3 years ago,
yeah,
because what I did for about a year and a half is, before I went on stage, I would psych myself up, and I would stand backstage and like shadow box and stuff, and I would tell myself that I'm the fucking best comedian, and I'd be like, "You're going to destroy this. You're going to fucking kill the room. You're going to have a great gig," and it genuinely really did work for the year to 18 months that I did that.
yeah,
And that's when I feel like I had some of my best gigs in my entire stand-up career,
yeah,
was just brainwashing myself into believing that I was great. It's a whole kind of Conor McGregor kind of mentality. Do you know what I mean?
yeah. Because it's been a while since I've seen you do stand up. I mean, the vast chunk of the times I've seen you, you went very dry. You were very sort of low energy, and then obviously towards the end that kind of changed, and you obviously brought
Yeah.
in sort of musical aspects and all. Is that still the case now, or like for anybody that wouldn't have seen you but wants to come see you when all the restrictions are lifted, what can they expect from you now? Because I know you've always done one-liners. It's always been
Yeah.
quick stuff, which is weird because you've when we first met, you always told me that your memory was shite, and yet you go
It
on and do
still is.
40 minutes of one-liners. Like you said at the start of this episode, you're like, my memory's shocking. I'm like, I trust you to pick. I'm going to start doing one-liners. That's always been your
Do you know
like
what though?
style.
I think it's the old kind of. I think a lot of people say too that they don't pick their comedy style. Their comedy style picks them.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I feel like when I first started doing stand up, I started doing one liners because I didn't have the memory to think of long stories and remember every part of it that made it funny.
Yeah.
And also, I didn't have the confidence to have an audience sitting in pure silence waiting the punchline. So the sooner I could get the punchline out and hear the laugh, the more or the quicker I could calm down and just sort of relax into the gig.
Yeah.
So that's when I started doing that. But pretty much the music stuff is really just kind of breaks and the jokes for me. You know, that I don't really have a passion for, like, I can't play the keyboard for shit. I really can't. Like, everything I do is just one hand jingles.
Yeah.
But the reason I do those is for almost like for cheats. So what I would do is, if I can't remember a joke, I'll go over to my tablet and I'll hit a wee soundbite and I'll do a joke off that. And it gives me 10 to 20 seconds to look at a page full of bullet points. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's what I kind of use that as. And also as well, just from the research that I've did from I started doing stand-up, that people only really have the attention span for about 10 to 15 minutes of one-liners.
Yeah.
So if you keep breaking it up every 10 minutes, then it's going to keep things fresh for the audience.
Yeah.
Rather than me doing 40 minutes of just joke.
Yeah.
And in terms of the whole dryness, I think I just dabbled. I just went through a stage of, I think, you know, like when maybe like Frankie Boyle was at his peak, I was trying to just be really dirty and controversial and things like that. And I would just still, while doing one-liners or focusing on wordplay, but I would just do really kind of shocking material. And I feel like I've just went through a few phases since I started doing stand-up to kind of feel, just try and figure out what I was best at.
Yeah.
And just from being with Diona and from Diona being at my gigs and from talking to other comedians as well, I found that I kind of that one of the better things that I do on stage is talking to the audience and smiling and having a laugh, whereas that is the complete opposite
Yeah.
of being dry and being slow. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's just trying to find that kind of mix, and I think it's just been trial and error for me for maybe up until about 4 or 5 years ago, until I found what I think is my niche. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And then I've just kind of went with that for the past few years.
So,
But what about you? How do you find, like, with your acting stuff as well? Do you feel like that's you? What you've finally found your voice? You've found your style? This
somewhat.
is you now.
Yeah, I haven't really committed 100% to the idea, but I've started incorporating. When I first started, you know, you always, you know, when you first start doing stand-up, you try and look for like comedy influences overall, and it's always like, you know, Billy Connolly, Tiernan, whoever it may be and stuff. And like, I didn't watch a lot of stand-up when I was growing up. It was like I watched a lot of Jim Carrey, and I was massive into the fact that he could do a face and voices and his physicality. So I didn't do that a lot at the start, but I started to incorporate it. Then I moved away from it. Now the last like year or two, I started bringing it back slowly but surely. So I've still got like the culty dur sort of vibe. So then when I do bring out a bit of physicality, whether it's a walk, a face, an accent, it's more powerful instead of doing the
And do
whole act like Lee Evans just jumping
yeah.
about. But when I incorporate it, whether it's a face or something, it's more powerful. So I've been swaying more so towards that the last couple of years, and it seems to be working quite well because I'm the only person really doing that, like to the extent of, like, I know people have the odd voice and face and all, but I do it like really sort of OTT these days now because I'm usually so dur every other time that when I do it, it just comes across more ridiculous and it gets bigger laughs, basically.
Do you find as well that since you started doing that you've been enjoying being on stage more, or you've
Yeah,
been looking forward to gigs more?
100%, 100%.
Yeah. See, I'd be like that too with my kind of silly stuff. I kind of feel like the past few years I've kind of let go of the, like, don't worry about every joke having to be really smart, where you have to be super fucking, you know, everything has to be about this, like, about the day Shakespeare was born and all that shit. It was like, if you just make it really, really silly,
Yeah,
because my style of humor is like Bob Mortimer and, you know,
yeah,
Angela Sepisimu and fucking just like Tim Vine and all that there. So it's like
yeah,
silly kind of just, I don't want people to come to my gig and learn about abortion and, you know, me being beaten up as a child. I want people to just come and just forget about the time when that happened to them,
yeah,
and they just switch off, and it's just fucking pathetic. It's just like you're going back to your childhood and you're just having a laugh for an hour, and then you go home and
yeah.
back to the real world. Do you know what I mean?
Has there ever been a joke? Because like one of my favorite jokes of all time is one of yours.
Like,
When you, I don't know if you still do it. When you say, "Did I do my joke about the altar boy with no arms?" No, it doesn't ring any bells. I still like that's ingrained in my head. Has there
Really?
ever been a joke that you personally loved that just never got laughs, and you're like, I have to drop this because it never does fuck all?
Oh, that's a good one. I think there has been a few. There was a joke I've only really done maybe 2 or 3 times that I've always loved, but it didn't really go down that well. Where I would say, my parents are two of the most racist people I've ever met. Like I was going up to visit them last week, and I didn't even get to open their front gate, and I heard them shouting through the window, "Who is that white motherfucker? Get him out of here! That crackerhead motherfucker!" Like that's that's really funny to me, but it just didn't go down that well on stage. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know why. Like it's obviously me implying that my parents hate black people when in actual fact they are black people
yeah,
who hate me coming to their house because I'm
yeah,
white. But like I had to explain that to you. I don't know why I felt like I had to explain that because obviously I didn't. But
yeah,
maybe for people listening. But yeah, there's a few wee things like that that I kind of feel like um I'd say if I looked through my phone as well, I would have quite a few. I kind of love doing the really rough ones. I do still love the shock factor,
yeah,
and I just I don't pull them out as often as I would like. I think it's because I do kind of more mainstream work now, where I could be on the radio or things like that. I don't want to like I don't think any comedian really sets out to offend anyone,
yeah,
but there's just times where I think if you do cleaner material, you'll get more bookings, basically. Do you know what I
yeah.
mean?
Is it
I
difficult for you
think
then? Because obviously, since like the start of this episode, we've kind of established that you can do family shows, you can do darker stuff. You can really play anywhere now. You're really limitless in terms of your corporate work, and even just in terms of you could do a comedy club and then do a primary school the next day, which is a tremendous position to be in. But
is it.
it must be hard to balance. That's my point. I think you have to be very careful about what you put on your social media, because if it's a very dark set, someone's going to see
Yeah.
it and be like, well, he's not coming to play he's not doing my wedding. Or I suppose it's like after everybody, but it's hard to get a balance of all those styles, really, isn't it?
It really is. I think you just have to kind of switch off from all that because years ago I used to drive myself mad. I really did. I used to be like when I first started my career, like when I went to do Ireland's Got Talent, about a month before, I was like, right, my career could really take off here. I don't want to take any chances. So I went on to my Twitter and I just typed in Sean Haggerty fucker and it deleted everything with the word fucker in it. Went
Mm-hmm.
on cunt, anything the word cunt, deleted it. All stuff like that. Any slagging of Simon Cowell or anything in the past, just
Yeah,
all. When you kind of like you're just finding your voice and you don't know what's right or wrong. And I feel like the past 5 years with just with how the world has evolved in terms of acceptance towards everything in the past 5 or 10 years. I
yeah,
feel like whereas before that we weren't as switched on because the internet wasn't as big a thing and people didn't have as much of a voice back then. So you were more inclined to tweet stupid stuff. Do you know what I mean? So I was just going down, just searching for every fucking word I could think of that might offend people and was just deleting them all. And it is quite stressful sometimes, but I think you just have to switch off and just go here. People are going to get offended no matter what. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
Fucking diversity, mention Black Lives Matter on Britain's Got Talent, and they've got the most complaints of any TV episode in the history of TV, and you're like, come on, do you know what I mean?
yeah,
It's People are going to get offended no matter what. So I think as long as I'm just true to myself, and as long as there's no malice behind the stuff I'm saying,
yeah,
and people understand that what I'm trying to do here, my main focus is to make people laugh, and that is it. I'm not out to offend. I'm not out to pick a side, or
yeah,
and that's yeah. It's why I sort of made a lot of life choices when I was younger too, where I just don't practice religion. I'm full atheist. Do you know what I mean? I don't.
yeah,
I feel like religion, especially over here, has no benefit to me whatsoever. I think if anything, it just separates me or makes people dislike me without knowing who I am.
yeah,
Because of what religion I would be, which is hard to come away from because of the fucking taggiest name known to man.
yeah,
But apart from that, if people can look past that, then hopefully they just go, well, he doesn't necessarily believe Mary was a virgin, so
yeah,
he could be one. He could be one of us. Do you know what I mean?
yeah. I
So
agree,
it's
man.
for me, it's more about just acceptance, and just I want fans from all sides. Do you know what I mean? I want to be comedy's Carl Frampton, basically.
Yeah. So
You know what I mean,
before we finish up, the cackle. So before we finish up, then I suppose a sort of extra branch to this question is, now you've got a podcast that's a new podcast which has returned recently. I mean, with all that in mind, what can people expect from your new podcast, and what is it about, etc., etc.?
I think with this new podcast, you know what it basically comes down to is that because we're in another we're in the same pandemic, but we're in another lockdown.
Yeah.
I'm like, I found myself just being very inactive recently, and I had no focus. I had no goals. There was nothing that I felt like I could achieve in lockdown, apart from maybe getting a few hits or a few likes or downloads or whatever, shares. So I was like, you know what? I think the best thing I can do here is like, because I work at Q Radio as well, and I started Q Radio last year, and I haven't been able. I've done maybe 4 shows since I started because of COVID and because of the circumstances. All the presenters down there, obviously, a lot of them are DJs as well. They've lost a lot of their night work as DJs. They would maybe go on summer holidays, whereas they've all had to be cancelled. So this is the only work that they have. So they're all keeping all their shows. So it kind of stopped me from working quite a lot down there, whereas I was fully hoping to be midweek presenting down there, you know, every day of the week, just busting my balls at Q Radio. And I feel like I've been waiting in the wings now for like 13 months, and I'm just waiting and waiting and waiting. And I thought, you know what? I'm sick of my life being in other people's hands. That's why I don't do a 9 to 5 job, because I can't work for anyone else. I want to work for myself. And I thought, what better way to do that than just have a podcast? I've got all the equipment. I've loads of experience podcasting. I kind of feel like I'm a very kind of real person. I'm very open. There's nothing I won't talk about. I feel like I have the experience from jokes and from comedy where people could maybe learn a thing or two from the experiences that I've had in the past. I feel like I have a ton of life experience, from being a dad at 20 to obviously being married and IVF and everything else. So I kind of just wanted to create another platform for myself in a way of just sitting down, writing a bit of comedy material, going over the news, talking about a few funny videos, being real with people. Maybe like I posted, I'm doing 2 episodes a week. I do a Monday show and a Thursday show. And the Thursday show that I put out today, I've put almost like a shout out looking for people who are self-employed or who are trying to get their business off the ground. And I'm going to let them advertise for free on my podcast.
Yeah.
So that's, if anyone of your listeners are doing that too and fancy getting involved, you know, anybody who's struggling right now or who isn't getting help from the government or isn't getting sort of bursaries or payouts or whatever, give me a shout. And if there's a way I can help you by creating a wee mini ad for you that gets you a bit of exposure on my podcast, then that's what I'll do. But put the first one out on Monday, and it's got about 1,000 listens between views on social media and downloads and stuff too. So I'm delighted with that. So I'm just trying to just focus on that at the minute, keep using my platform, keep just trying to work and stay relevant, basically, I suppose, like everybody else.
Yeah. And where can people, is it a video podcast as well, isn't it? So it's on YouTube and then the usual audio platforms?
Yeah, so I'd say people can see this name of mine, can't they, down here?
Not overly.
Can you see our names on the videos? No?
Yeah, well, I can see. I can actually. Yeah.
So if people search my name on Facebook, YouTube, or wherever they get their podcasts, then they should be able to download it. There's 2 episodes a week. They're 100% free. I'm going to do stuff I have like a thing as well. Which do you have like Patreon or anything? Do you do anything like that?
I do have Patreon. Yeah, we set up March, April sort of time, around the start of lockdown. I set up the Patreon. Yeah.
That's happy days.
It's really good.
I'm doing, I'm going to do something like that eventually as well. But in the meantime, I'm just doing like there's a website that lets you take 100% of the profits, and it's like what do you call it? Like a donation kind of page. and people can donate anything from £3 to whatever they want.
Yeah.
And there's no kind of fees, or there's no nothing for them and nothing for me. So it's just, as soon as they send the money, it goes straight into my bank account. So anybody that donates to me over the next couple of weeks, I'll gather all those email addresses and I'll do a show for them once a week as well. So
awesome, man.
Yeah, so just trying to stay active and trying to keep busy like yourself. And
yeah, it's all you can do, man. All you can do.
I know.
And I'll
What's
put
is this a green screen behind you, or are you laying down on a boat, or what's going on?
Yeah, that's everybody thinks I'm lying down on the floor or on a boat or something. It's just a backdrop I bought on eBay. It's got like a wee
That's
stand and all for it.
amazing.
So it looks good.
Oh,
It was
class.
about it came from China, mind you. It was about £8. And you
Oh,
sort of just
really?
yeah, so you can just do that. But like again, because of Patreon and stuff, I was able to sort of invest in like lights and stuff like that there.
Brilliant.
Like this is just a wee webcam I'm using, but it looks good. And especially if you have decent lights, it's half the battle and stuff and sound and everything. But I'll put all the
But you know what? Yeah, please, man, I appreciate that. That'd be
no
class.
worries. No bother.
But as you said, it's just like when I talk about people screen grabbing and sending on funny pictures and stuff to their mates,
Yeah.
people have no idea how just a simple like on a Facebook video can change someone's fucking day or someone's career. Do you know what I mean?
100%.
It really, like from people watching your podcast or listening to your podcast, from people watching and listening to mine who'll come over to yours now, hopefully.
Yeah.
Just from us helping each other out, there's room for all of us, I think. And
Yeah.
we keep sharing each other's shit, keep pushing each other, keep motivating each other, keep inspiring each other, and we'll all go up there together, and we'll have a big party when we all do get there.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, I say I'll probably leave it there because it's been I'll just do a fake goodbye and we'll stay on the chat, obviously. But thanks a million for coming on. It's great to see you. Good start to the year. It's been too long since we had a proper chat.
Hasn't it?
I know, man. Weird. Fucking mad
Too
shit.
long.
Yeah, but thanks a million for coming on, and I will see you very soon. Fake goodbye.